I love going to the movies. There's always something magical about sitting down in a dark room in front of a giant screen, surrounded by sounds they play on high-quality speakers so loud you can feel yourself being a part of the movie. Or an hour and a half of you wasting your time and money either because the movie sucks or the people around you forgot that they were in a public space. But those things never happened to me. So far, I never had to walk out in the middle of a movie or encounter any problematic moviegoers, so it's safe to say I never had a bad movie theater experience. Or maybe I do, we'll get into that. Also, when I said that I love going to the movies, what I really mean is I love watching animated movies in theaters and literally nothing else. I feel like 75% of the movies I watch in theaters were animated. Although on rare occasions I will watch a live-action movie if it's horror or comedy or something my family and friends wanted to watch and they made me go along with them because I didn't have a choice. But aside from that, I rarely ever watch live-action movies, no matter how good people say they were. I want colorful cartoons, damn it, so I'll watch colorful cartoons, and as an adult, you can't stop me from watching them. 2019 has to be the year I went to the movies the most because there's a movie theater that had just opened literally 6 minutes away from my house. And since the place is pretty small, tickets and snacks were pretty cheap. During its first year of opening, the place had a lot of people coming in, and I said that because it's a small town movie theater, so it never gets too crowded. But the time it was crowded was when Avengers Endgame was released. I went there with my friend, and as soon as we walked in, we were shocked to see just how many people were there, which is... Come on guys, it's Marvel. But what's even more surprising was when we got to the counter, there were still tickets left. Like, we were expecting it all to be sold out, but no, and the seats we got weren't bad either. I told my dad about it, and he said that he had a friend whose son worked at a movie theater, and during Avengers Endgame's opening weekend, there were already a crowd of people piling up in front of the theater he worked at before the place had even opened. And sure enough, that first week was pretty chaotic. On the opposite end of that, I've also watched movies in empty or near-empty theaters. Ever since the pandemic, the movie theater near my house has been pretty dead. I mean, they're still open, but before COVID, I could walk in and watch a non-Marvel movie in a room with at least 30 people. But now, I'll see 10 people and thought, whoa, that's a lot more than usual. Like, no joke, when I watched the Barbie movie, there were only 20 people there, including myself. Speaking of empty theater, this one time I met up with an old friend to watch a movie, but when we got to the theater, none of the movies that were showing at the time really piqued our interest. But since we were already there, we just made a random pick and decided on Ant-Man Quantumania. And for reference, the theater that we went to wasn't the same as the one in our hometown. It was a completely different place. Anyway, we walked in, sat down, and as the lights started to dim and the previews began, we looked around and realized that no one else was there. No one was coming in. It was just us. We had the whole place to ourselves. Whoa. So this is what it feels like to have my own private theater. Cool. Then we proceeded to talk the entire time instead of watching the movie because neither of us cared about Marvel. Okay, looking back at this, we probably should have gone to a cafe or something. But the first time I watched a movie completely alone without anyone else was when I watched the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. And this was also in another completely different movie theater because I thought it would be more interesting to spice things up by watching a movie at a different place. I don't know, it could be fun. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. The place was completely empty, so it's no different from watching a movie at my regular theater. Alright, let's change the subject. Here's a fun story for you. One time in high school, my friends and I were planning to go see a movie, but we're running a little late so we didn't have time to buy snacks. We just bought our tickets and ran straight to the auditorium. But in the middle of the movie, one of my friends handed me a bag of popcorn, but not in one of those movie theater popcorn bags. I'm talking a plastic bag filled with popcorn. Amy, where did you get this? It turns out the guy who gave us the popcorn was friends with one of my friends, and he worked in that theater. He saw us running in without buying any snacks, so he hooked us up with free popcorn. So, thanks, Amy's friend, whoever you are. I shall remember your act of kindness till the day I die. Do you guys ever get that post-movie feeling? You know, that feeling after you're done watching a movie and all the excitement and adrenaline dies out, and then you were like, oh crap, I'm back in the real world. Yeah, I felt that a lot, but the weird thing is that this only happens after I watch a movie in theaters. I think it's mainly because I was inside a dark room that's closed off from the outside world, and since we're not allowed to check our phones while the movie was playing, the concept of time just doesn't exist for a while. You don't feel time moving forward because you're so immersed in the movie. The big screen made it as if it's possible to interact with the characters and the world they were in, and the loud sounds doubled that factor. I mean, it depends if the movie you're watching was good, but I never felt like this when I'm watching a movie at home. Like, this is a cinema-only experience. I guess that's why I love watching movies in theaters. It's like a nice break from reality, you know? Anyway, it's funny how in the beginning of the video, I said that I rarely watch live-action movies, but all my stories so far are about me watching live-action movies. So let's change that, with the story about the time my friend and I went to watch Toy Story 4. Now, the movie itself is alright. It was unnecessary, like everyone said, but in my opinion, it's not Pixar's worst movie either. But I won't lie when I said that this movie can be erased out of existence and I wouldn't even care about it. Anyway, we watched the movie, everything's fine, until the ending happened. And if you watch this movie, you know what I'm talking about. But just in case you haven't watched Toy Story 4, spoiler alert. Okay, so at the end of the movie, Woody decides to stay with Bo Peep at the carnival, which means he and Buzz and the other toys had to say goodbye. For real this time. Yep, that's right. After years of being together, these two finally went their separate ways. And the breaking point for me was when Woody passed his sheriff badge to Jesse, and all his friends came together to give him a goodbye hug. I bawled at that scene. I was sobbing, tears were coming out of my eyes faster than I could wipe them, and I didn't bring any tissues with me, so I ended up wiping my face with my sleeves. My friend tried to comfort me, but it was no use. I was a mess in that auditorium. The group sitting closest to us was this family with 2 young kids, and they saw me bawling my eyes out, and one of the kids said, "Mommy, that person is crying." But I didn't care at that moment. These characters were my childhood. They had my back when no one else did. So of course I'm going to be emotional. I never cried so much while watching a movie. Sure, some movies can make me shed a few tears, but never full-on sobbing. Let alone in a theater where people could watch me bawl my eyes out over a children's movie like I was attending my own mother's funeral. And that scene alone is the reason why I haven't rewatched Toy Story 4 till this day. I could never watch that scene without crying. And the fact that I like to ignore Toy Story 4's existence because the third movie's ending was already perfect, and it's a great way to wrap up the franchise and they should have just stopped right there. Okay, now for the last story. Remember when I said that I never had any bad movie theater experience? Well, I lied, because this last story was the worst thing that ever happened to me at a movie theater. One time, my sister wanted to go to the movies, so she asked my dad for permission if she could go, and he responded with the most dad answer ever. "Okay, you can go, but you have to take your sister with you." What? So we went to the mall the movie theater was at, and this was a few years before the theater near our house was open, so obviously we had to go to another place. But it was only a 20-minute drive, so it wasn't that far. When we got there, however, there were only 2 movies playing, a horror movie and a romantic drama movie. Obviously, my sister and I opted for the horror movie, but the lady behind the counter said that the tickets were already sold out and the next showing was in 2 hours. Neither of us wanted to wait that long, but we also didn't want to just go home either because we took the time to drive there and we would just be wasting gas money if we did, so we decided to watch the romantic movie instead. After that, we still have to wait a few minutes before we could be let inside the auditorium. My sister was texting with her boyfriend at the time, who was coincidentally in the area. He asked if he could join us, and my sister obviously said yes. He arrived a few minutes before the movie started, and my sister went with him to buy his tickets. But when they got back, my sister's ex said, "Yeah, so, I didn't get a seat close to you guys, so can you and I, switch seats so I could sit next to your sister?" What? So I ended up sitting in a dark room, alone, surrounded by couples watching some dumb romance movie I didn't want to watch in the first place. I hated every second of it, and you might say that I was just being salty because I was single or I was in my love is icky phase, but no. It's because of the movie we were watching. Romance has to be my least favorite genre ever because I find it to be incredibly boring. Romantic comedy is a little bit more tolerable because at least it could be funny sometimes, but the one we were watching was romantic drama, aka the worst of the two. I don't remember the title, but the plot was pretty much every high school love story ever made with all the cliches you can think of. New girl at school falls in love with the resident bad boy with a tragic past, a jealous ex-girlfriend, a happy couple montage, the bad boy making improvements in his life for the girl he loves, miscommunication, temporary breakup, yada yada yada, you get it. So yeah, that was the story of how I third wheel for my sister and her boyfriend and my worst movie theater experience ever. And you're probably thinking, well, that wasn't that bad. And yes, in hindsight, there are probably worse things that could have happened, but that was still my worst movie theater experience ever. So far, at least. Sitting in a room watching a movie you don't want to watch while your sister and her boyfriend were only a couple meters away from you is not how I want to spend my free time. Though my sister did told me that she didn't enjoy the movie either, it still doesn't erase the fact that I basically third wheel for her and her ex. And ever since that day, I never watch a romantic movie ever again. Until Pixar's Elemental came out. That was a good romance movie. Hey, I'm back with another video. Sorry this one took so long. I was super busy at the end of the year, but I'm hoping in 2025 I can upload at least once a month at a consistent schedule. Thanks for being super patient with me. I'll see you in the next video, but until then, you can follow me on my social media, link in the description below if you want to see more of my stuff. I'm actually very active on Tumblr where I post a lot of fan art and nerdy stuff, so if you're into that, you should follow me there. Okay, end card is getting too long. Bye.